Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's Royce Jacob. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Stock Talk, series I make whenever I feel it's necessary, where we cover some exciting news and price action in regards to some of the stocks we've been talking about on the channel. Today's case, we are covering some COVID-related biotech, some of our good old COVID biotechs. You guys know the deal. We will go down the line here on our watch list, as you can see on the right. Moderna, Sorrento, AstraZeneca, Inovio and Novavax. We will take a look at the charts and also cover the news in that order. So I'm excited to cover some technicals and fundamentals with you guys, okay? It's been a little bit, and as you guys know, this is always an exciting sector. Seen a lot of red lately, but finally starting to see some green. So again, I'm excited to cover it with you guys. As always, we will cover each topic that we're going to be discussing, then we'll dive into each one individually. Again, we'll take a look at all the charts on TradingView. I'll let you guys know what I'm thinking in terms of future potential price action. Then on to the news. We will kick it off once again in this order. So we have a couple articles in regard to Moderna. Good news, Moderna on the verge of European supply deal for 160 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Moderna says more than 40% of participants are enrolled for the COVID-19 vaccine trial. So there is a caveat to this in some news that I've been seeing lately. We'll cover that. We don't have that actual article, but I'll talk about that when we cover this, okay? So because I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that as well. All right. We will then go on to talk about this big news that dropped earlier in the week and really caused Sorrento, definitely caused Sorrento some pain, being a treatment competitor. So FDA chief walks back comments on effectiveness of coronavirus plasma treatment. So again, earlier this week, FDA, along with the Trump administration, did just kind of come out of the blue with just pretty much fast tracking and expediting completely this process of plasma treatment. All right, so we'll cover that a little bit, talk about what that plasma treatment is quickly if you guys aren't aware of it, but then talk about the FDA chief really taking back some comments and even admitting that he acted a little too quickly, because this was super suspect. All right, so we will then go on to it's kind of on that treatment Sorrento news. Okay, you guys, I know you guys want to talk about Sorrento, and we will finally talk about Sorrento today. So implied volatility surging for Sorrento Therapeutics stock options. All right, if you guys are familiar with the channel, you know that we at least I trade a lot of options. Like that's what I talk about a lot of times. So even if you don't trade options, this still does apply to you, just because it will affect the stock movement. At least it's very likely to. Okay, so that's Sorrento news. Again, you guys, along with these news articles, we will go along with the charts at the same time. So we will then move on to AstraZeneca. This is the last piece of biotech news. Just quickly go over this, take a look at AstraZeneca. Then again, I'll take a quick look at Inovio and Novavax, just because I know a lot of you guys might be interested in my analysis on that. So we'll just take a look at the charts for those two. But again, this is it for the news. At the end of the video, I actually want to show you guys, or I should say, read with you guys this little excerpt from this morning's newsletter that I sent out, talking about red days. Okay, so if you've been involved with the sector like I have, you know that you will experience consistent red days. If you guys have been around from the beginning, you know that I'm still net green. If you guys have been around and were invested, you are as well, but still net green. But you guys, the market works in cycles, and that's a very important thing to understand. And I just covered some of my psychology around consecutive red days and what that means to me and how I approach them. Okay, even as I was writing this, I was like, I need to remind myself of this sometimes. So again, I'll read this with you guys just because I thought it was important and I did want to share it with you guys. And yeah, look forward to doing that as well. As always, before we get into the video, I will ask you guys to please give the video a like if you do go on to gain value from it, or if you're invested in any of the stocks we're talking about today. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here and want to catch more content like this. And of course, check out my complete portfolio daily newsletter, first link in the description, if you're interested in my precise positions in some of the stocks we're talking about, along with all my other positions, and want one of these bad boys in your email inbox every trading day during market hours. Okay, and again, I do want to mention the 7-day free trial. I just implemented it a few days ago. I've decided that I'm only going to do that for the last week of each month. Okay, so I will be taking it off come the end of this weekend. So I mean, check it out if you guys want to. But again, I'm only going to do the 7-day free trial starting, at the end of this month, at the end of every month. So the last week of every month, I will be doing that. All right. So yeah, check it out if you're interested. If not, no worries at all. All right. So Moderna in front of us, as you can see here. Again, Moderna over the past since the middle of July, so over a month now, has been in a downtrend. There's been a lot of not good news, pretty much, just because that's the thing, you guys. That's a very important thing to remember in this sector. We're so used to good news all the time and such kind of mind-blowing news. We're kind of stagnating. Still, you guys remember, since we've been covering Moderna, started around like $30 probably, if not less than that. Still net positive, still over 2x from when we started talking about it. But again, you guys, the ups come with downs. The market works in cycles. Nothing ever goes straight up. It's very news driven. This market is very news driven. And you guys know the deal. Speaking of news, we will go on to the news first, establish a fundamental understanding of what's going on, and then get into the technicals. Okay, so Moderna on the verge of a European supply deal for 160 million doses of coronavirus vaccine. Kyle Blankenship from Fierce Pharma. All right, so moving down, I'm just going to read you guys these two quick paragraphs, sum it up. Moderna and European Commission have concluded advanced exploratory talks to supply up to 160 million doses of the Massachusetts biotech's mRNA-based COVID-19 shot, the company said in a release. The potential deal, which is waiting for final approval, would ship an initial 80 million doses to the EU's member states and leave open the option to purchase with an additional 80 million at a later date. Okay, so similar to the U.S. deal we talked about a couple weeks back. I mean, time's all kind of just mushing together at this point. But similar to the U.S. deal, again, it's just so bullish that, again, the EU is choosing to go with Moderna. And again, Moderna has just kind of been leading the charge throughout this vaccine race. At least in my opinion, your guys' opinion might differ. That's just my take. But in my eyes, I think Moderna has been leading. Again, they're the first ones in the fast track program. Operation Warp Speed, and again, they're furthest along in the trials, which we will cover a little bit here. But again, it's great news for Moderna specifically. Obviously, that the EU is choosing them and looking to contract a deal with them for 80 million doses. And again, similar to the U.S., you have the initial deal. If all goes accordingly, you can always supply more. So I mean, 80 million up to 160 million, good math right there. Up to a potential 160 million doses for the EU guaranteed contract. Again, if all goes accordingly, that could very well not happen. But if they produce an efficacious vaccine, like I'm confident they will, then this is great news. All right. Let's move on to this other one, then we'll get into the charts. Yahoo News, Reuters, Moderna says more than 40% of participants enrolled for COVID-19 vaccine trial. Drug developer Moderna Inc. on Friday said this is last Friday, obviously, said it has so far enrolled 13,000 participants in the ongoing late-stage 30,000 volunteer U.S. trial testing its COVID-19 vaccine candidate. In a tweet, the company also said that 18% of the participants currently enrolled are Black, Latino, American, Indian, or Alaska Native, groups among the hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so remember how I told you guys there was that little caveat to news? So I've been seeing, as of very recent, this news was released on the 21st, I believe. Where is it? So August 21st, this was published. Again, I've been seeing a few articles talking about people making the statements, making the claims that they're really behind on this Latino Black group, this group right here. So I'm not sure what the validity of that is. I'm also not sure what the complete validity of this statement is. So you guys go do your own research. As always, this applies to all this. You guys, not investment advice, not research advice. Go do your own research. I'm just kind of talking you through my thoughts. But I mean, innocent until proven guilty. I think that they're doing pretty well. Again, they're still significantly ahead of anyone else. AstraZeneca is in this piece of news that we will cover as well. Did just start testing, and they're probably going to have equally as hard of a time recruiting those type of people. Okay, so everyone's going to deal with the same thing, I have to imagine. I don't think it's because it's Moderna. I think a lot of people, even I personally, would be skeptical to be in that first batch, and I imagine a lot of you would. I mean, my props to those and my respect to those who are willing to kind of make it. It is a sacrifice, right? You don't know what you're getting into. So my respect to those who are making the sacrifice to and being a part of this trial. If any of you happen to be watching, props. Okay, but that's, again, good news. It's a hard process. You guys cut these guys some slack if you're having negative thoughts about this or thinking that they're not doing a good job. This is very hard work. Everything involved with every stock we're talking about. Biotechnology is not an easy field to navigate, especially when you're trying to fast track a process that usually takes a very long time. So just keep that in mind. All right. That's Moderna. Let's move on to the charts. So again, Moderna been in a downtrend since mid-July. Thankfully, just barely. It did technically this morning, just with this last 4-hour candle to close out the market today. It did end above breaking out of this uptrend, and you could kind of move that up if you want to use that candle, and it's still technically down, but I like to use the solids personally, and it did close above this downtrend line. Okay, so again, we're gonna have to see how it plays out tomorrow. If it's up even 1% or 2% tomorrow, it will have technically broken this downtrend, and once again, as I believe, start an uptrend. You can see there's so much right where it's sitting right now. You can see it's used it as a line of resistance so many times, so we're gonna have to watch out for that. But as you can see here, once it broke out of that line of resistance in the last rally, it just went to the moon. Again, with all these, you guys remember that good news will have to catalyze a significant move either up or down, or not down necessarily. It's a lack of news that's the downward movement that we've seen recently. But good news will likely have to catalyze a significant move up. Even if we don't have good news, I mean, I would say this is good news. So this definitely warrants a move, at least to once again retest this line that was support as a line of resistance. So I think it will probably bounce up to the $75 region. I would trust me, you guys, my money's on everything I've said and will say in every one of my videos. Okay, so yeah, I think we'll probably bounce up to the $75 region come the next week or so. We'll probably capitulate, go sideways for a little while, and then I do think that good news at some points in the near future. I just feel it on my gut coming. Again, that's a terrible instinct, or it's not a terrible instinct. You should always trust your instinct. I've talked about that before, but to an extent, it's an irrational statement, but it's my gut statement, and I've learned to go with my gut at this point in my career, okay? So I do feel like, again, and you see the exact same thing playing out. You see a run up on good news, bubble pops a little bit, capitulates, weekend sell off, capitulation, gain some strength, gain some momentum, good news, shoots up. We're seeing like the exact same thing play out, okay? So my price targets on a longer term time, or more medium to long term time frame for Moderna are going to be, again, it will probably, I think it'll do pretty well up until early mid-September, and then I mean, I just have to feel like there's so much talk about the trials like actually being in effect, actually being executed in October and whatnot. So I do think that by the end of September, just with all the hype that's going to go on around that we'll at least once again retest this middle trend line. Pretty conservative trend line in my mind, and use that as resistance. That brings us up to the $110 mark. That is new highs. And then if Moderna drops absolutely banging news, 100% efficacious, not 100%, but even like if they go into production, we're looking at a retest of even another pretty conservative uptrend line that it started back when we were covering it in March to May. That would take it up to 150, 160 levels. Okay, and again, Moderna is currently at a $25 billion, I believe, dollar market cap. It's $26 billion now. It's still small, you guys. It could still 2x from here, be at a $50 billion market cap, and that's still smaller than a lot of the other pharmaceutical companies, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm still very bullish on Moderna. I want to establish, for those of you who don't know, my only two holdings within the sector right now, just as a disclaimer, are Moderna and Sorrento. Moderna is my vaccine play. Sorrento is my treatment play, and those are the two I'm sticking with, and those are the two I'm fundamentally the most bullish on. All right, so let's, speaking of Sorrento, let's go on to Sorrento. Again, we'll cover the fundamentals prior to getting into some of these wild lines that I've drawn here, okay? So these lines are not super crucial. We'll get to that when we get to the chart, okay? So FDA chief walks back on comments on effectiveness of coronavirus plasma treatment. You can see here the beginning of the week when that news was released. I mean, Sorrento has just kind of all the stars misaligned for Sorrento over the course of the past week or so. So, I mean, but you guys, volatility is to be expected. Look what Sorrento did. Again, still significantly up since the beginning of this pandemic, it's still significantly up on the year, all right? That's something you have to imagine. It just saw parabolic price action. Nothing goes up forever. Nothing goes down forever, okay? And I do think that this is, I mean, I said over here that I didn't think it would go below like this level right here. I was wrong. Again, that the news did catalyze this to some extent, but I mean, there's so much support right here that I really don't believe. It did come down to here, which was this exact, like the initial high it set at the end of June prior to this huge run up. So it is good news to me that it did bounce successfully off that, and it closed the day up 2.9 or up 1.29%. I'm sorry. So I mean, this is super strong resistance right here. It's good to see that it is like bouncing. It ended the day, closed the day right on that line. I truly can't imagine Sorrento going any lower. Again, you guys, when you see this, I've played many bubbles in my day. If you haven't heard me preach that pretty much every freaking video, but played a lot of bubbles. I've seen a lot of charts that look just like this. I imagine we'll probably bounce, see a pretty significant bounce just because it went up so hard, fell so hard. It makes sense to bounce to about the halfway point. So, and you see a lot of supports, or a lot of resistance, I'm sorry, around this area. So I do think it'll probably bounce back up to like the $14 region after this. We might go sideways for a little bit there depending on what news they drop. And again, I'm very fundamentally bullish on Sorrento. I've been adding the whole way down. If you guys are part of the newsletter, you know that. But I mean, and that kind of coincides with what I'm going to read you guys here. All right, so So I do think that I didn't even finish covering the news, but I'm just excited to talk to you guys about this. Short story long, I do think that we're going to bounce to the $14 level. I can't tell you what happens after that, but I am expecting personally a bounce to the $14 level. Stochastic RSI, all-time low on the 4-hourly. Once again, 4-hour candles are my preferred mid to long-term, more medium-term. I should say my preferred medium-term time frame candle, time frame for candlesticks. All right, so Again, expecting a move bounce up to $14. I can't tell you what happens after that, but that is what I'm expecting. Let's go back to this news because I fully just got captivated in the charts. All right, once again, FDA chief walks back and comments on effectiveness of coronavirus plasma treatment. That plasma news is what caused Sorrento to fall. I should state that I do have a plasma play position. So I have some call options on this plasma company that I'm pretty bullish on personally. I'm going to wait to see how it plays out before I talk to you guys about it, because I'm not comfortable even talking about it because it's super speculative at the moment. But again, I felt like it's almost a hedge, okay? So I'm playing it kind of as a hedge, but I'm still kind of bullish on it at the same time, especially in this current shiny object, very hype-driven market environment. Okay, so key points. Authorization will allow healthcare providers in the U.S. to use plasma to treat hospitalized patients with COVID-19. The FDA's emergency use authorization came a day after President Trump accused the agency of delaying enrollment in clinical trials for vaccines or therapies. The criticism from Trump and action from the FDA led some scientists to believe the authorization, which came in the eve of the GOP National Convention, was politically motivated. What's not? All right, what's not politically motivated when it comes to this stuff? FDA Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn is walking back the comments of the benefits of the convalescent plasma. Should have known that before, saying he could have done a better job of explaining the data on its effectiveness against the coronavirus after authorizing it for emergency use over the weekend. Hahn came under intense criticism from scientists after he said at a White House press briefing Sunday that a Mayo Clinic study found the treatment resulted in a 35% improvement in survival. However, its authorization, the agency cited more complicated findings from the Mayo Clinic researchers on the use of plasma. Okay, so this is, in the like no shit Sherlock news right here. Who's surprised by this? It was obviously politically driven. There's no way they would make this statement without some external kind of push, okay? Especially with how, they've been doing a great job to date. They've had to dance the line. The FDA, has had to dance the line of making this process as quick as possible because it is a very urgent matter, but taking the necessary precautions to make sure that people aren't just being injected and treated with whack, whack treatments and whack vaccines. It's very dangerous. Okay. So, they slipped up. I'm glad he backtracked this, and I'm glad that they're at this point. I can't tell you what's going to happen with the plasma. I don't know. This is a very breaking news event. So I will definitely keep you guys posted on this, and I will talk about that company in the future if they do perform. But again, it's very speculative at this point. I don't even really want to talk to you guys about it. But this is that news. Let's move on to the implied volatility, and then we'll move it back into Sorrento so I can just reiterate the same point I just said 4 times. Implied volatility surging for Sorrento Therapeutics SNE stock options. Investors in Sorrento need to pay close attention to the stock based on moves in the options market early. That is because the September 18th, 2020 $30 call had some of the highest implied volatility of all equity options today. That's nuts. So when I see this, that means to me that insiders are likely buying those calls and they know some news is going to come. All right, I've seen this multiple times, and this is sketchy. This sucks when it does not work in your favor. But this means to me that there's some people who might have some information that we don't have that are buying these options, because those are highly risky options. If you guys, part of the portfolio, have heard me talk about options before, you would know that I never play options that expire at the very least, less than 30 days out. Definitely, I like to range more around 45 to 60 days out for kind of shorter term bullish plays personally. But September 18th, less than a month, $30 calls, that's sketch. That is so high risk, but so high reward if Sorrento goes to $30 or even 25. So super sketchy. Again, implied volatility shows how much movement the market is expecting in the future, which is pretty much options. But this just signals to me this is bullish, not in a fundamentally good way, but a technically good way, because every time I see this happen, every time you see a spike in options volume, in futures volume like this, especially on such a short-term time horizon, which is very risky, and no wise individual, especially one that would warrant this type of movement in this options market, would probably be taken unless they had some inside knowledge. Okay, so that is very good news for Sorrento. That once again makes me believe that we could bounce not only to here, but beyond. Again, you guys remember that my ultimate price target for Sorrento is $27. I think, again, you guys, it depends on the news, but if it does reach it organically, I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit that point late September. All right, that's when this uptrend coincides with just the $27 mark. You guys know I'm never guaranteeing anything. I have no freaking idea if this will play out, but just for fun, September 23rd, Sorrento will hit $27. Let's see if that sticks. All right, so last but not least, we'll move on to some quick AstraZeneca news and breeze over those last three. AstraZeneca starts trial of coronavirus antibody treatment. AstraZeneca has begun testing on antibody-based cocktail for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. The move adds to the recent signs of progress on possible medical solutions to the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. All right. So once again, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, BioNTech, there's a lot of great plays in this. If you guys are holding those, if those are the plays you guys are bullish on, I mean, I could be 100% wrong. You could be 100% right. I have no idea. I've chosen Moderna in this race. I'm sticking with Moderna. But again, if you guys are playing these, if you guys hold these, if you're fundamentally bullish on them, then more power to you. I hope they do well. But Moderna is my horse in this race. All right. That said, and that is just because, again, Moderna is already in the process of kind of like executing those trials. AstraZeneca still has to go through the whole process that Moderna started like 2 weeks ago. Okay. So let's take a look at AstraZeneca. I haven't looked at these charts in a while, so forgive me if these look kind of whack. Okay, this doesn't look too whack. Okay, so, I mean, this is a very boring looking chart. You guys have to remember AstraZeneca is a significantly larger company than most in this sector. So $150 billion company. Again, remember you guys, if Moderna 2X's, it'd only be at 50 billion, okay? And AstraZeneca is at 150 billion. That's why I've never preferred AstraZeneca, although it has seen pretty significant growth. You guys just know, I always say this, the bigger the market cap, the more capital inflow, the harder it is, the more capital it takes to rise the individual share price. So that's why I like the smaller companies, just because you can see that crazy movement like Sorrento, like Moderna, like Inovio, like Novavax. Okay, so AstraZeneca, I'm not doubting that they could 100% come out with an efficacious vaccine, but not playing them. I mean, just there's not much to say here. I wouldn't be surprised to see it if it releases good news, come up and retest the $61 region, $62 region. But I mean, that's kind of, I can't see it going much further than that unless they drop banger news, which then it's definitely possible to set new highs, probably reach like the $70 mark. Because again, it's a big company at this point. It takes a lot more capital inflow to boost the share price. All right, so that said, let's move on to Inovio. Poor Inovio just has been getting mauled lately. Inovio is down. Inovio just really doesn't look good, you guys. And I know I've heard a lot of good art, like they could capitalize on the South Korean market. There are like Asian markets looking into Inovio specifically to provide them with a vaccine if they can come out with them. Just as far as fundamental progress, way behind. They're not doing anything tangible. I haven't seen any good news in regard to them. I just read an article actually in the process of researching this. There's a lot of short options. So that means that people are betting that Inovio will go down. For the most part. The good thing about that on the bullish side is that they could get short squeezed out with a big move up, and you could see a significant move up if there's a lot of shorts on the stock right now. Okay, so Inovio, I mean, I really have nothing to say here. I hope if you guys happen to be invested that it does well, but it's not looking good to me. Okay, Novavax, and then I'll read you guys this. All right, so Novavax did see a significant correction. It did bounce pretty close to this line. It makes sense that it bounced just about where it gapped up. You can see back here where it gapped up back in early July. So it bounced off there. It is seeing a nice bounce. Again, Novavax still part of Operation Warp Speed, still making pretty tangible progress. But it did play out this kind of head and shoulders pattern that I might have talked about in the last one. I can't remember. But Novavax is technically in a downtrend right now. This is an arrow, but I mean, it's a green arrow. So this is still going down. But I mean, Novavax, for me to be technically bullish on it, would have to break above this lowering trend line right here, this line of resistance that it's been using since it started correcting at the beginning of the month. So if Novavax breaks up above this lowering trend line, breaks out of this line of resistance, then I would get bullish on it and expect a move maybe back up to this region, because there's so much resistance around this $150 area, big psychological even as well. Okay, so that could happen. Again, like all of these, it will take good news. All right, so that is the stocks. Go on to read this again, you guys. I'll just read this to you and then I'll riff on it a little bit afterwards. Okay. So I want to talk to you guys about the consecutive red days I've been experiencing. I want to let you know that although I preach patience and strong hands constantly, it still pisses me off to see red. It's not so much the fact that I'm losing personally, but more so that I know that you guys are potentially hurting as well. My time horizon on almost all the positions I take on are long, and they always have been. That is my style as a trader. I find it is best for my psychological longevity. It's also the most guaranteed way to assure consistent gains over time. That said, I could have played the day-to-day over the past week or so better, and I apologize to any of you who may be struggling mentally right now. Trust me when I say that I'm right here with you, and although it still sucks, I've been in this position many times in the past. Also, trust me when I say it will definitely get better. Like life, the market works in cycles. Green, red, light, dark, life, death, you know the deal. I'm still learning just like you guys, and I always will be. That's the beauty of this game. You can play it for your entire life. Sometimes it may seem like you've been on a green streak forever, and sometimes it may feel like the red days will never end. It's important to remember that it's actually just a blip in time if you plan on playing this game for life, which I hope you do. Hard times build both character and wisdom. It's all a part of the experience. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Now let's get down to business. All right. So again, you guys remember, just this is the game. Still net positive, still green. So I can't complain. I'm still in the green. But you guys have to remember, even if you just watch the YouTube, if you're not part of the portfolio, that's completely fine. But again, you guys, I talk about these. I assume that if you're bullish on them, that's the reason you're watching my videos and these stock talks when I cover different sectors, is because I imagine you're bullish on them. And if you're bullish on them, I imagine you have positions. And it's just important to remember. That's why I wanted to read it to you guys, not just give it to the portfolio or the newsletter. But just remember, you guys, the market works in cycles. Everything, like, it's all a natural balance. It happens. Just look at the historical patterns of literally almost every single chart that's been around for 5-10 years. You'll see similar patterns happen over and over again. It might seem like the red days are lasting forever, and like Sorrento specifically, like, when did we start this pullback? Okay, so the Sorrento started its pullback August 10th, so it's been over 2 weeks now. It seems like forever, right? It seems like forever, especially in this market, you guys. Super exciting times, especially when you come off such a high, and it just destroys you to see like such red after that, a complete bubble pop. But again, you guys, it's just like, if you're fundamentally bullish, and again, I'd never take on positions that I'm not fundamentally somewhat bullish on, at least. Very bullish on Sorrento. I've been adding the whole way down. And just think of it as like you're buying at a discount. If you're planning on holding it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, which I personally do, if you want to day trade, that's cool with me, but that's not my style. Just remember, you guys, like the red days do end. What goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. That's what goes down must come up most of the time. What goes up must come down most of the time. You guys, there's obviously caveats to it sometimes, but 99.9% of the time, what goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. All right. So yeah, we'll end it there, guys. Once again, the 7-day free trial, I'm going to close that out come probably Sunday. So you have until Sunday night to try it out. If you do, great. I appreciate it. If not, no worries. And again, you guys, if you are excited about any of the other stocks, within this sector, please let me know why. Let me know if I'm missing anything. At this point, I'm pretty closed-minded to everything else. If you guys know, I've been covering the sector for so long. I've done my research due diligence on so many of these plays and so many of these companies. Moderna and Sorrento are the two I'm choosing to play, and those are the ones I'm excited about. But please, if you are bullish on other companies within the sector, let me know why. I'm always interested in learning your guys' takes, and just always love learning, love talking shop with you guys. So I'll see you down there. And until next time, you guys, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace. Oops. All right, later, guys.